Hey, and welcome to a quick tour of Face Swipe, not to be confused with Faces Wipe. Face Swipe. Okay, so what's it about? So, basically, it's about two things. It's about getting cheaper ads and a higher return on investment in your ads, and it's about getting higher conversion. But that doesn't come about directly. This is not what my program does directly at this level. What it does is it works at this level down here in order to make this level work. So you may or may not believe in avatar profiling at the moment. You may not do customer interviews or surveys and stuff, but basically at some stage you're going to get to the point where you realize how important they are, because what we normally do is we normally advertise to 10,000 people to try and find the 100 people that we think are relevant, and then we offer them something and it isn't what they want, and we blow our whole advertising campaign. By avatar profiling, we work out who they are and what they actually want, and we kind of basically do that by talking to them and just basically seeing on a kind of one-to-one level exactly who they are and what interests them. And Facebook this is basically Facebook orientated, this whole thing. Facebook is a social platform. It's an ideal space for us to be able to actually look at the lives of our customers once we can find who they are and what their interests are. So let's just step back. If I try and do a normal ad to the United States to try and find, let's just pick a random niche of bass fishing. I could target the whole of the United States, all 158 million people, if I could afford it, to try and find all the people interested in bass fishing. Obviously that would be, quite hard and expensive. I could narrow it down to, who I think are the audience, maybe they're men of a certain age, and I can, guess at what that might be, or use some statistic. I'm still at, 46 million people there, so that hasn't worked so fantastically. And obviously on Facebook we can actually target by interest. So if I just put in bass fishing, now if I pick the hashtag, which is basically broad match, so this is anyone who's mentioned bass fishing or fishing and bass in the same breath, if you want a better word, we'd still be looking at 1.3 million people. Now we still don't know what they want either, but 1.3 million people is still a lot of people to get at. If we go down to the specific niches, we still end up with 310,000 people, which is still quite a lot, and we still don't know what they want. So how do we find out what they want? So, as you know, Facebook is trying to be a search engine. They give us a search engine of sorts. I can start to type it in, and they're offering me a game, an app, so an interest. So that's interesting. So there's an interest here. So I can, we know that on Facebook there are 863,000 people interested in bass fishing. 4,000 of them are actively talking about it. I wonder who those 4,000 are. Unfortunately there's not a link for that, is there? It's given us some clues as to where they might go, but they're not particularly exciting. So let's just go back. Let's put in bass fishing group. Okay, and see what we come up with. So now we're getting somewhere. We can see that there are 1,500 people in this group. In Hmong, there's some people there. It's handmade tackle. So we're seeing something there, and if we could get people in this group, maybe we'd be somewhere. Okay, but this is still pretty cumbersome to get at. So basically what we can do is we can supply you with a list, these lists of like the top 5 of these most relevant groups, with the people in them already done for you. And just to give you a kind of an insight as how we do that. This is one of the tools we use. It's not the only tool we use, but you can see that we can search by different things. So I can just type in bass fishing, and instantly you can see that the list of groups is much easier to manage. And instantly we can click on a group and we can see how many people there are. Okay, and obviously these people are interested in bass fishing because they're in the bass fishing group. One thing that struck me was there was a girl here, so I thought, how many women are interested in bass fishing? So we look for another group, and we find that indeed there is actually a group dedicated just for women interested in bass fishing. Now if you were targeting these people specifically, women interested in bass fishing, obviously that would be super focused, and they would be expecting a particular type of language and a particular kind of need and this kind of thing. So basically we want to start to profile these people, but doing it from here is a pain. You have to go to each page individually, and it opens up a new browser tag and all that. So basically what we do is we basically extract this list and the top 5 lists and give them to you in one ready to go kind of format, and then we basically paste it or load it into here, and then we can get at them, which I'm going to show you in a second. Now that's basically it, but it means instead of having to deal with 310,000 people who are vaguely interested in bass fishing, we know exactly more what these people are and what they want. And I'm going to show you how we find out what they want in a minute with the interview management technique. Okay, but rather than you having to trawl through endless groups and not being sure quite which are the most appropriate ones, and then not being sure actually how to get the user people out of these lists, we give you the list, or can give you the list straight away to do it. Or you can get this program which we've linked to on this page as well, and you can do it yourself. You basically create the list, export it, and then you load it into FaceSwipe. Okay, so let me show you FaceSwipe next. And just before I do it, let me just tell you the one thing that I forgot to tell you. By using these lists, once you've got these lists, they're basically free. We're not having to, basically advertise to these people to get at them. We can get the number, get the profile, and send them a message straight away. Okay, so now we know that they're into bass fishing, and we can get them. We know exactly what who they are, and what they want. We can now start to talk to them and send our intro message, and then do our interview script with them. So instead of having to kind of like, if you like, cold advertise for interviewees or survey takers or questionnaire takers or peer groups or whatever it is, focus groups, whatever it is you're trying to do, we can actually get at users who we know are specifically interested because they're in these particular groups. Okay, so I've just imported the list of the people from the Bass Fishing Girls there, and I can just select the one of the profiles that I want. I'll just click the button and instantly it will come up, and we can check out their profile, see if they're really influential in this in this niche, if they're the sort of person that we could go by. So that one looks not so much as if she is. Not much clues there. So you just have to go through them and find the good ones. Okay, so she's got quite a lot of friends and stuff. She's an outdoor sort of person. Can't see where her love bass fishing is, but let's say she's a lively profile. Let's say that we want her, so we keep that one in our shortlist, and then we can just go to the next one. So you can see how easy it is. We're not having to type anything. We're not getting lost. We can just go through them, and there we go. So she plays hockey there, so she's very athletic there. 46. So karaoke, drinking, maybe not her. So the next one. Again, we're not having to type anything in. We're going to the straight away. Okay, so we're getting a good feel of the people, which is basically what avatar research is about. Okay, so she's active in she's very social anyway. There we go, Bass Fishing for Girls. That's one of her prime groups there. So let's say that she was definitely one of the ones. So we can go on with that, and we've got their shortlist here, and we can save this. For use later on, so we can always come back to it. And when we have got the list there, we can just use the other button there to go to our shortlist profile and see who's who. So let's say we like her profile. we can just take a quick snapshot of it, and it will go into our gallery. There we go. And if we ever want to see the gallery, we can just click the gallery button there, and it will pop up, the gallery of what we've done. And obviously you can, change your window sizes to do whatever you want. So there she was there. Okay, so we can have a gallery of the people we think is interesting. If we want to, pick her, then here's our message. Obviously we need to change the blahs to, to whatever, to the niche, bass fishing, whatever. This is a guide script. It's up to you if you want to change it or whatever. But basically we can just copy it to the clipboard, and we'd literally just go to the message, and we'd paste it in, and then we would send it. Okay, and she'll obviously come back to us or not. If she says no, we can remove her from the list. If she says yes, then obviously she's going to stay there, and we can follow up with the interview. Okay, but we can see what she's about. We can see her friends, a photo. We can see that she's definitely in the bass fishing group there. We can see that she's socially active. We can see what she looks like, kind of age, whether she's married, that kind of stuff. Children, all that, what her other activities are. So she plays a lot of games apparently. So she's an indoor and an outdoor person apparently. She's into something there. She's into storage wars, I don't know what that's about. Anyway, so it's bingo. So we can really see what's driving her, and where the bass fishing comes into her life, or start to see. So then we go to the interviewer, and we've got our questions here. So when we're talking on the phone, we're going to auto record it as normal, and we can make notes of something key as she goes down. Maybe she likes a particular area, whatever, and we can just make notes as she's talking, and then we can go back, tell me more about this kind of place. We can save and load these notes, we can save and load the questionnaires and all that. Then we can import the audio file. We just click on that, browse to wherever we saved the audio file, and then it will appear in our list, and then we can just play back the file here.
Well, I'm glad you asked that.
Okay, I don't know if you heard that on the speakers because I'm on a headset, but it's there. And then as we're going through the audio file, maybe we're going to make notes about what it is. So in this example I'm looking at dieting and weight loss, and maybe I'm saying how do you describe your current weight situation, and maybe some people say plump and fat, or big boned, or pregnant like a whale. That's my attempt at humour. And we can write down their words, and maybe some people will say that, maybe some people say that more, maybe a few people say that, and then maybe not a lot of people say that, and maybe more people say that. And to vote, that's all we've got to do, is we just click on the thing. As they're going, we can just click whatever they are, and you can see it's very, very quick to do that. So let's say that that was very popular there, and we can see instantly what's going on here, and we can save this list and load this list of factors, as I call them. But we can also just put them into Excel and make a graph of it, and I've made that super easy for you. So what we do is we just click export, give it a file name whoever you want, and then if we just click the view button, what you'll see is it comes up in Excel as the two columns that it needs with the header at the top. Okay, and all we do is we just select those two columns. We just go to insert chart. I'm going to do a pie chart. I'm going to say yes to that. I can see instantly it's done what we want. It's got all the headings in there as well. Let's do next, and do the data labels. Okay, although they are down there as well. And then that's basically it, and we put it in the chart, and now we've got a nice little graph of exactly what's happening. We can instantly see that this was the most popular one there. When they don't fit, we've got the key down here, and that's it. But it's like 3 steps to get it into Excel to make the graph. It's in a spreadsheet. You can do whatever you want with the data as you want, but it's also still in here waiting for us to to reuse it or whatever. So you see it's very easy. I mean, it's so easy, it's almost like it's nothing. But that's the point. That's the whole point of it, in that we can bring in the list, shortlist them very easily. We know what we're going to send them. Sending them the message is super easy. We can have different sets of these scripts here. Then when we get the interviews or whatever we want to do, we can go to the interviewer, and then we've got the script here to prompt us. We can make the notes, and then as we listen back to it, we've got all our audio recordings in one central place. We can make our key factors here. We can vote on the key factors, and then export it straight into Excel. You see, and all of those things are things that you would not normally do, but this is all key data. We know exactly how people think of themselves, who they are, and whatever. And maybe something comes out of this research where they say big bone, and then maybe we go back and we get a big boned list. We verify that it looks correct, and then we bring it in here, make sure it looks correct, and then that can actually be the user list targeting that we actually use in the Facebook ads. I won't show you how to do that here, but basically you can create your own audience down to user level and actually target these specific people. And then you can still sub-filter on those with men and women and stuff if you want to see how many of the list are in there. But you can see that doing it this way, we can get specifically at maybe 500 people and really target them. We know what they want. We've looked at their avatar, we've made their interviews, we know what they actually need, what they'll respond to, and our list of impressions that we need is going to be much lower. Okay, so that's basically what it does. It's super simple. It just makes it very easy, very intuitive. As I say, what I've described seems like nothing, but without all these things, without the script, without the shortlisting, without the easy one-click browsing of the profiles, without the screen snapshots of the gallery, without being able to take it to the interviews and go to the interview prompt questions, without the prompt questions, without the scoring, without the playback of the centralized pool, you can see it'd be a lot harder to do it, and you probably wouldn't do it. And that's the thing. This is basically an app is designed to encourage you to do what needs to be done. And you may or may not believe in avatar profiling at the moment. When you get to the stage where you do, then this is the tool that will help you to do that. So that's about it. As I say, you can download one of the versions in exchange for your email. If you want to upgrade to the bells and whistles versions and stuff and unlock the interview module that I showed you there, then you can do that at any time as well. Anyway, that's it. That's what Face Swipe does. Don't confuse by calling it Faces Wipe. It's just an unfortunate series of letters. And I think that you'll find it super easy to use it, and it will encourage you to use it. And if you don't have it, then you're not going to do it. And that's why I made it, to make people actually do what they need to do so that they can run more efficient ads and get much better conversion. See you then. Bye for now.